Welcome everyone. My name is Kelsey. I'm the Business Services Administrator in Ottawa, and I do a lot of the property administration portion of the information for Scouts Canada properties. So this first webinar is really how to use the new property process that's in place, so the email account and the OneDrive. So what we're going to cover tonight is how to access your email account online, sending emails from your account, accessing your documents on the OneDrive, how to maintain that OneDrive folder, accessing your new workbook that has been set up, and how to navigate and complete your workbook. So this workbook that has been set up has a lot of cool features that I'm happy to share. So this workbook and email address is going to let you enter in information once, and then it's going to carry over to every document that you have to complete. So you don't have to waste your time completing it over and over and over. You can also use this information year to year. The document's going to be standard, it's not going to change, it's going to be there year to year. So you can just resubmit it, or you don't even have to submit it. You can just save any changes that are needed as they go on. You don't have to re-enter everything. So you're going to have all the completed forms at your fingertips to compare year to year. You're not going to have to flip from your business plan to your continuing business strategy, then back to your finances. It's all going to be pulled together in one document. You're also going to have the option to see the documents that are necessary for you to conduct your property business. So you're going to have your ownership, your insurance documents, any inspection documents that have been done in the past. There's a lot of other features, so any documents that are pertinent to that property are going to be saved on your OneDrive. So you should have received an email that explains the new property process. This email will look something along the lines of this. And it explains your new username and the temporary password that has been given. So what you're going to want to do is write these items down, and if the temporary password has expired, most likely it has because it's been since October, you will need to contact myself as well as the operations manager and get a new password. You would have also got a folder shared with you. This may have been through the new email address as well. So what you can do is you can click on the portal.office.com link and make sure again to write this information down, the username and the temporary password. So if you go to this link, just left click it. This is portal.office.com, and just note that if you are signed in to another email address, you will need to sign out prior to do this. This is what I'm doing now. So again, if you go to portal.office.com, you can sign in. If you have other accounts, you'll have to select Use Another Account. This is at the bottom here. So you just left click that. Then you're going to left click and enter in that email address that you were given. And then you're going to enter in that temporary password. So left click, enter it in. If you want to save this, press Keep Me Signed In. Let's left click the box and then left click Sign In. The first time you sign in, it's going to tell you need to update the temporary password. So left click and enter in the temporary password. Below left click, enter in the new password. This new password needs to have a capital letter, 6 characters, at least 1 number and 1 symbol. And again, type that into the confirm password. And this is the password that you don't want to change time and time again, so you need to make sure to remember this. Then left click on Update Password and Sign In. So when you're on your main screen, at first on the right hand side it's going to say Install Software. You can just press the X on the right hand side of this and this will close this box. This home screen shows you your apps that you can frequently use. You can see at the top it says Scouts Canada, so that's how you know the email, and on the right hand side it tells you the email address you're accessing. The few apps that you're going to be using are Mail, the Calendar, and the OneDrive app. You can see they turn a lighter blue when you hover over them. So to select the Mail, it's going to turn lighter blue when you're over it, and just left click it and it will open. This opens in a new tab at the top. You can see a separate little page. It's going to ask you to select your language and your time zone the first time you access this. This will be the only time it asks. So what you do is you left click on the arrow. This is at the English United States, so left click on your mouse and select English Canada and left click that. In your time zone, it's the same thing. You left click on the arrow and you select the time zone that applies to you by left clicking on that. So for myself, I'm on the Eastern Time, US and Canada, so I select that. This makes sure that your emails, the time received stamp is correct for your area, and then you left click on save. This will open up your mailbox. So you can see that there's emails that have been received from myself already. These have been sent over the last few months, so a lot of them are irrelevant now. So the center shows the messages received. The right side is how you preview. So if you left click a message, you can see it on the right side now. And you can scroll through this email. If you want to scroll through the center, also the right or the left hand side shows you your folder, so your inbox, sent items, draft items. So if you want to scroll through, left click the scroll bar and drag it up and down. So if you go to the very bottom right now, that's the first email received. And because they are irrelevant, you can go ahead and delete them by left clicking on the square. So select the ones you want to delete. The webinars aren't really relevant right now because we are on our second one and they have all past due except for the third. So if you want to take note of the third, but other than that you can delete by selecting them and then left clicking on the delete near the top. Again, you can go through. Your property expectation document has to be signed and received, or signed and submitted. So keep that email, but the rest of them you can select and you can delete these. So you're just going to scroll up after and select the rest of them, and then press delete near the top by left clicking it. You should have one or two emails left, so you should have a property expectation document. You should also have a document that shares the folder. So if you're not going to be using this email frequently, I recommend forwarding the messages to yourself and any other committee members that need to stay on top of these items. So when you're on your main mail screen, you're going to go to the right hand side and there's a little cog for settings. And you're going to hover over this and left click it. A little menu will come up. And there's a few quick items you can do here. So if you want to do an automatic reply saying you don't frequently go on here but you can reach you by going to your main personal email address, you can type that in. But the main part here is there's a scroll bar, so left click it and drag it down. And you're going to want to go under your app settings and then left click on mail. So on the left hand side you can see another menu pops up and you want to go to inbox and sweep rules. So under inbox rules you're going to press on the plus sign, left click on it, and under name, left click and type forwards. So the next item is when the message arrives and it matches all of these conditions. So you're going to hover over select one and left click the arrow. You're going to move over and scroll down, hovering over, So I always select my name is in the to or CC box. Or it was sent or received and sent to. So the one I like, because it seems to never fail, is my name is in the to or CC box. So what you do is you go over it and then you left click. Under do all the following, left click the arrow and go to the bottom where it says forward, redirect, or send, and hover forward the message to. And then you're going to type in your personal email address. So for myself, I'm going to type in my work email address. So you type it in, you press search, and then under search results, beside my name, there's a plus sign, so you'll click that. At the top, you'll see forward the message to, and then you'll see my name, and then you press save. So left click on save. After this, at the top you press OK, left click on it, and it saves the setting. So now every message that you receive after today, this message is going to be forwarded to your personal email address. In order to get back, when you're in this settings, you're going to press back on options, the arrow, left click it, and it pops back to here. In order to close this setting, just left click on the cog again. So to go back to your OneDrive in order to edit the workbook and walk through the folders, we are going to go to the top left hand side of the screen where the 9 icons are, left click, hover over OneDrive, and left click. Again, on the left hand side, you're going to click Shared with Me, the third item down, left click that, find the folder, and left click. So when you're in your OneDrive account, and the folder that I have shared with you, you're going to see a few items. You will see last year's scorecards in a folder if they have been done, any photos you've submitted, any inspection reports, if your insurance policy has been submitted, you'll see a copy there, as well as your ownership document. And the two most important documents are the workbook and the instructions for the workbook. So a few tips for this. If you want to create a new folder to sort some items, at the top left bar there's a plus new. So if you go over this with your mouse and you left click, the top item you can hover over, it says folder, and left click this. You'll see a little menu pop up. You can type in anything you want. So if I wanted to throw my instructions into a folder so that they're not in the main menu, I would type instructions and left click create. And then you're going to see a new folder here in the main folder called instructions. So if I wanted to move this document into this new folder, I would select it by left clicking over the gray check mark, and you'll see it turns blue. Then I'm going to go where it's gray, left click, holding the left button, I'm going to drag it up until it highlights the instructions. I'm going to go over top of it and just release the left button. It may take a second, but you'll see now that the instructions are no longer in the main folder. So if you want to go access those now, you just go over instructions until it's underlined and you left click it. You can see they're in here now. If I wanted to open these, there's two different ways it could show up. It may show up a square like this, or it could show up as a list like this. So if it's a list and I want to open it, I just go over top of it until it's underlined and I left click it, and you'll see it's going to open a new version in here. If you find it's too small, on the right hand side there's an I, and this is the information about the document, so you just left click it, and at the very bottom there's a little bar here. If it's not there, you may need to just move your mouse around and it should pop up. See how it disappeared there? I just go around here. Then I'm going to left click on the magnifying glass. I'm going to pull my mouse up and I'm going to click 100%. If I need it bigger, I go 125. If I need it smaller, I just go down again. So what these instructions do is it walks you through each part of the workbook that you're going to be working on. In order to go around this document and read it and scroll through it, on the left hand side you can either press left button and hold it down and drag this down, or you can press the arrow at the bottom and keep left clicking it. So what this document does is it explains how to access your email address and how to sign in, your main areas you're going to be using. So if you keep scrolling through, it's going to show you how to edit the workbook. So another thing that this outlines is the Process tab. The Process tab gives you all your expected due dates over the next year. Then it goes through the Essential Information tab. This stuff might not make sense right now, but it will be more clear when we open up the workbook. And it goes through how to add in the finances, how to do the budget, business plan, how to save a document. So what we're going to do right now is go over this information. So to go to the top again, you would just click left and drag it up. To close this document, there's an X right above the scroll bar. Not the main X that turns red at the top of the screen, but another one. So you just left click that X, and it'll go back to your main OneDrive folder. So if I didn't want this in this instructions folder anymore, what I would do is select it again, left click when it's highlighted, and pull it up, keeping the left button clicked, and drag it over Ottawa Office. You can see it highlights itself, and just let go of the left button and it'll drop in there. To go back to the folder, at the top, you can see you're in the instructions right now. Just go over and have the folder highlighted and left click that. You can see the instructions are back here. If you want to upload some documents from your computer, there's two different ways you could do it. You can either go to the upload at the top of the page, the second item, left click, and you can either do a whole folder or file. So if you want a specific file, like instructions, you could just press file. If you want a whole folder of photos, you can press folder. So if you left click files, you're going to be able to find them on your computer. So you would just left click the item and press open. And that will bring it into your folder right there. It may need a second. So if I didn't want this in here anymore, I would left click the check mark, and near the top press delete by pressing the left button. It's going to ask me if I really want to delete it, and I would say delete. And you'll see the item disappears. So the other way you could add documents here is if you have the folder open, you just select the item and you hold down the left button, and then you drag it over, and you can see there's a little, you can see the folders are being highlighted. So what I do is I drag it to the bottom and then release it. You can see so it may just take a moment. If this pops up, don't worry about it. Just click somewhere else around here. It just tells you what's been recently added. So you can see it's now in here, and I'm going to delete it right away. So you just left click and press delete. So that's how you navigate around your OneDrive. And of course, if you're ever struggling, just send the documents to myself at properties@scouts.ca and I can upload them for you. Or I can set up a phone call with you and guide you through. Same with the operations managers. Okay, so we're going to open up the Ottawa workbook. So you can left click on that link. That's the workbook folder. You can see there's a few tabs at the bottom. That's what those things at the bottom are called. Process, Essential Information. So we're going to click on the Process tab and we're going to left click it. This area tells you all your due dates that are coming up due, and it goes over how to submit documents and what the next steps are. So you can see they kind of go from a cooler color to a warmer color the more they are overdue or the farther you get. And then as soon as you get back to compliant, they start to work to a cooler color again. So if you want to look through, you can see the property expectation document is first. You can scroll on the left hand side by pressing the down arrow, and it goes through the essential information, the finances, the continuing business strategy, which was due on November 1st, and you can see the due date in red. And then it goes and tells you like if the operations managers have to collect the data, what they have to do, and when you should expect to hear the answers by. That's if they're submitted on time. And then when you should hear if it's been finally approved by the national office. Then it gets into the safety standards, which are due April 30th. Operations managers will be collecting those on May 1st. It goes through what the next steps will be after this and when you're expected to hear different information about them. You can see the CBS has to be, or the scorecard has to be submitted, and you're going to hear different issues. Those issues have to be approved and corrected. Then we're going to get into the budget and the business plan. These are due July 30th. The operations manager is going to collect them, and you should hear by September 1st what the approval has been on those, if things need to be changed. This is the same for the business plan. So really, if you have any need to know key dates or what the next step is, or if you're wondering why you haven't heard, you can go to this process tab, and this is going to explain all the dates. Then we're going to go to the Essential Information tab at the bottom row and just left click on Essential Info. This is pretty much the heart of your workbook. It holds the information that is the tombstone data for the property, so it's not going to change. So this information pulls through to your other documents, such as your business plan and your continuing business strategy and your scorecard. So this information should be filled in if I had it. If not, we're going to have to fill it in. So we are going to edit the workbook. So at the top right hand corner, you're going to left click on Edit Workbook. And then you're going to go down and left click on Edit in Browser. The first pop-up menu tells you shapes and other objects don't work. This is fine. We have taken out all shapes. So we're going to left click on Edit a Copy at the bottom. Then you can either change it or leave it as is, or erase the -editable part and save it in the original name. I'm going to type in January 2017 so I know when these changes were made and I have a previous version if I need it. Then I'm going to check Replace Existing File by left clicking and then left click Save. This opens the workbook in a full version of Excel, so you can change characters, you can change the formatting, colors, change the different lines. So we're going to go back to the Essential Information tab on the bottom, left click it, and we're going to go to the right side and scroll up by left clicking the scroll bar, and we're going to fill in our tombstone data. So what we are going to do first is type in the name of the property. So you can just select it by left clicking the box that needs to be filled in. And the address of property. Now, if the name is different than what you usually go by, email us and we'll make sure to correct that. There may be a reason we have it a certain way, such as we have all camp and hall taken out of everything. For GPS coordinates, if you aren't sure of them, you have to look them up. We do map these across the country. So what you can do is look them up on Google. So I'll show you how to do that. And it is essential. We're going to tie in agreements to different locations in the next phase project. So at the top, we're going to open a new tab by left clicking this little button. You can see it says new tab, and we're going to open up Google. So what I do is I type in the address and GPS coordinates. And I have a handy little tool I use frequently, and it's called longitude-latitude-maps.com. So I'm just going to click on that. That's the first one that popped up. I'll just left click the link. And you can see it's already at the right location, but just to make sure, I like to type it in a second time. So you can enter in the address again. And then left click locate. Just to get it a bit more accurate, you can see it changed a little bit. So what you do to select them is you left click beside it and drag that mouse over by holding left click down, left button down, again drag it right across to from right to left. After that, you're going to right click to copy it. So right click and then left click on copy. And you're going to go back to the top, close this, and go back to your workbook. You can still be in edit mode. So normally, I'll show you two ways you could do it, is right click and paste, but this won't work. You need to use your shortcut in this. You can again see if I do it on top here. So Control V, Control is on your keyboard, and then you press V at the same time. So if I was to press it up here, it's still going to do the same thing. So you left click on GPS coordinates, then you're going to press Control, which is at the bottom left hand corner of your keyboard, and press V at the same time, and you can see it enters it in. For your type of property, it's a drop down menu. So you left click on the arrow and then left click on the one that applies. For your council, operations manager, these should already be filled in. If they're not, just same thing, it's a drop down menu, left click and left click on the one you want. But again, they should already be filled in. So we're just going to select Elizabeth because she's in Ontario and Quebec. So then we need to fill in the contact. So at the bottom right hand corner there's an arrow to go over to the right. So we're going to select that and just hit it a few times so it moves over. And we're going to type in our primary contact name. I don't have his phone number and email handy, so I'm not going to type these in. And then secondary, and same thing, but normally I would have that information. So we're going to scroll back, so we're going to hold the scroll bar at the bottom row or press the arrow over. And you can see our inspection dates are what's next. So there's 6 main ones. There's your fire, chimney, water, tank, washroom, and kitchen. And these dates are pulled into your scorecard, and I also record these on a calendar for the operations manager. So if they know you have an inspection coming up due, they'll let you know. So what you have to do is type in your last date, and it automatically calculates a year from then. the fire inspection and chimney, all these standards are a year. So what you do is you type in the full name of the month, a space, the day, a comma, a space, and the year. And this will formulate the rest correctly. So you can see if I click below, it automatically counts a year. So I know by November 1st I have to have my next inspection date. And say I did book it on November 1st, it would tell me the next steps. So for chimney, I don't have a chimney, but I will indicate that. If I did have a chimney inspection, I would indicate the date. For fire inspection, every location needs a fire inspection unless they do not have a four-walled building. So you can see it changes to value, that's fine. For water testing, I'm in the city limits, so I don't have an official testing time, so I can just indicate that. Tanks, I do not have a tank. This is for a fuel tank or a propane tank, and this 10-year inspection is not your standard refill inspection. It's an actual different inspection that has to be conducted every 10 years. So I'm just going to say not needed because I don't have any tanks. You can see it changes to value. Again, this is fine. It's just because it's not a date. For washroom and kitchen, it's deemed what's needed by public health. So we don't have a public washroom and we don't have a kitchen. So for us, it's not applicable. So I'll just put not needed. And for the kitchen, in Ontario, it's usually if you have food prep or an industrial kitchen. So for us, we don't have either at the office. So I'm just going to indicate that it's not needed. So if you go back to the top here, you can see all the dates that it's going to pull. This information here is pulled through to your business plan, CBS, and scorecard. So you can see Ottawa office. If you go to your CBS and you scroll to the top and over to the left a bit, it may format that way, you can see that your property manager name has been pulled through, your council's been pulled through. If you scroll down, you can see your property name and your address, as well as the property type, has all been pulled through already. So for your inspections, if I know that my inspection date is on November 1st, I know that I have to start assessing possible issues, have a plan of action to fix the issues. I want to get the issues fixed that I know of before the inspection date, so I usually do about 3 weeks. And I want to have the issues noted during the inspection fixed at least a week afterwards, so I can pass it and have a report into the operations manager or your OneDrive account 2 weeks after the inspection date. It's the same for all the inspections. Next, we are going to go over your finances and your budget. So, if we go to the Finance tab at the bottom, so you left-click Finances, it starts off in 2013-14, this is 3 years ago. So this is where you're going to record your budget, and in the top row, first column, you are going to enter in your opening year budget from 2012-2013. So if you start with $500, enter that in. If you start with 0, you don't have to enter in anything. For the way the rows are set up, there's different options. These may not be the options that you like, so if that's the case, let me know and we can rework these. These are the standard ones that are used across OneScouts. They're pulled into your budget and your business plan. So if you don't have any fees for programs or product sales or donations, that's fine. You can leave them 0. If you have other income, you can note it here. And it works backwards. It goes from August to September, so that if you don't want to see the future months, you can hide them. Some people work that way, some people don't. So for now, if we need to rework it at the bottom, let me know. And I can set it up at the bottom in these areas here. If you have a certain type of thing that you want broken down further. So if you have a standing donation from certain groups and you want me to indicate that, I can auto total them into that column there. It's the same thing for all these revenue options. But you can see that they are pulled into the budget, business plan and CBS later on, so you don't want to change that format. And it's the same for the expenditures. So if you want your utilities broken out into hydro and sewage and propane costs, I can do that at the bottom. I can't change them at the top here, but we can automatically total them into the proper utilities area. See, it's the same for the budget. If you don't like those, I can do it at the bottom and it'll automatically total into these columns here. So at the end of the year, you can see here that there's a $500 difference. At the end of the year, if you have it equal 0, so you hand in what extra money you have to the council, just record that amount in the miscellaneous expense here, because then it'll bring you to a 0 balance. So if you have to hand that $500 in, it brings you to 0, as you can see here. When you move to the next year to record them, that net operating budget or amount is pulled to the next year's totals automatically. So at the bottom here, you just scroll with that scroll bar, you scroll up to the top again. So you can see the opening year budget is 0, that's from the previous year. If the $500 wouldn't have been taken away, it'd still be $500. And again, you're going to indicate all the numbers. For this, you can just scroll down to the bottom. It's the same thing, month to month and every line. So if we go to the next year, it's 2015-16. So we're going to go to budget right now. This is at the bottom. You're going to left click it. The budget is set up the same way in the same columns. And the way it works is if you need it reformatted, let me know. It pulls numbers from the finances. So you can see here if I indicate 100, 200, and then a $2,000 donation, and then my salaries is 1,000. And I go back to the budget area, you can see it automatically auto totals in the first green row. So if I go back to budget, you can see those numbers are now pulled in, so you don't have to re-enter them into your budget. See, you can see the salaries here. And you can see the numbers at the bottom. If you want those items changed, I can enter it in at the bottom again. So for your budget, you just enter in your amounts here. And you can see the balance at the bottom. Currently it's 0 because nothing's entered in. So if I enter in, I have 1,000 of salaries, I know that's going to happen, but I don't have any revenue yet. And I scroll to the very bottom. You can see the budget line, it's saying a negative 1,000, so I know I have to come up with $1,000 or I'm not going to break even that year. So we're going to work on the business plan now. So if you left click on business plan at the bottom tab, it'll open it up and you just scroll to the top by left clicking the scroll bar and pulling it all the way up to the top. So you can see there's a title page right at the beginning. This title page brings in your address and then it has the option for current year. So you just left click on current year and type in the year you're working on. You can really left click anywhere and retype, but I've highlighted the yellow so you know you have to enter it in here. Then we're going to scroll down. You can type in the version, the last updated date, and the author. So just select beside it. This first area is the instructions. It talks about Scouts Canada. It talks about the purpose of the business plan. It pulls in the information. You will need to type in their title. So in this case, I know he's the properties facility coordinator or property manager. I'm going to put in facilities coordinator. his email address would be pulled through if I had it entered in. The description of the property, you're going to go through and enter it in. More than likely you need more room. I know it can be quite large. So you would just type in background of the property, describe it. If you need to provide a map, I can enter that into you. Capacity, what programs are there, what sections can be accommodated, statistics. It explains that in the yellow right here of what you need to indicate and what you need to include. So I'm just going to type in here. Again, to type, you just double click this box. If I wanted to go to a new line, I could do that also. That's without going to the next row. So on your keyboard beside your spacebar, there's an ALT. If you held that down and pressed enter, it goes to another, spaces, like enters in, goes in the same box, so enters, but starts a new paragraph. So I can just click out of it. If I wanted more room, I can click on, well, in this case it's number 80, so the row, and then if I go between 80 and 81, you can see 2 arrows and 2 lines appear. I just left click, hold that down, and drag it down a bit, and this will give me a bit more room. And I can help you do this if you don't want to do it yourself. I can also enter in a whole page if you need more space. Just really let me know. The operations managers, I know some can do it, some aren't comfortable doing it. Just let me know. Don't hesitate at all. Same thing for property goals and objectives. So you're probably going to need more room. Same with the assumptions and constraints. But it's easy to do. Don't hesitate. For the property budget for the area membership and registration, you can see in that first paragraph the title of the property is pulled in. And then if you scroll down a bit, the area membership and registration summary, if you don't have these numbers, the operation manager or myself can pull these quite easily for you. So send us an email, we'll give you the numbers, and it's simple to do, so don't just avoid it, and don't feel like you need to know these numbers. Current year is for the 2016-2017 scouting year, and then you're just going to do a budgeted amount or an estimated amount. For your property usage summary, we automatically assume it's 365 days of the year, 366 in a leap year. So you don't want to change that information in the chart, but you want to know your camper days and your days used. So if you know you have 14 scouting and 15 external, you know your total days used is 29. So 7.95. That number is pulled into your continuing business strategy. So if you just scroll down here, you're going to do that for every year. So of course that's for one person. So if you know that you are having a larger group, the numbers are going to be more. It tells you how to explain it at the bottom. So that's, in this case, it'd be either like one day, a group of 1 for 14 days or a group of 1 person for 15 days. If you know, in our case, it's a scout shop, we're not going to have, and a service center, so we don't have any external groups using it, but if we want to know how many scouting days, we could put in 350 because that's a good estimate of days. So you can see it's 95.6% of the time. That's if it's just one person. So if we wanted to put that as 100 people, we can go up and change that number. So this would be 350 days, 100 people each day, which is totally an estimated number. Or sorry, 10 people. We'd just enter in another 0. If we wanted to change it to 100, we'd add the 2. So you can see the days used are still the same, but the number would increase of how many people. Your operating budget and finances are pulled through, so you don't have to re-enter those. Your capital projects are important to include, so we're just going to scroll down a bit here. So you would include any donations and grants and other income that supports these capital projects. And you can see under expenditures, if you don't want to leave it as project 1, you can change it to the title of the project. So if we were doing a roof upgrade, we would put roof upgrade. If we had a new boiler, we would put boiler upgrade. And then you would indicate the expenses and the revenues specifically put towards those areas. And it automatically totals for you. Your non-discretionary, so the items that you really don't have a choice but to upgrade, have a separate section. So like building code stuff, stuff to stay in business, you need to indicate those. And you can see here it does a kind of an overview of how much money you're going to need. So the costs, once you enter items in, are going to total at the bottom, and that's how much money you will need to indicate in this section here. So if you double click, left click this, you can change the amount of money you need by just erasing and then retyping. You're going to want to change the year and all these sections with X's. I'm just going to put it back to 0 so I don't forget. Same with the capital plan, the discretionary. This is stuff that you'd like to change. It's not going to impede it. Plan revenue expenditures, your timeline you're going to want to look at. So your communication plan, it explains what's needed in this. Your risk management plan you're going to need. This kind of goes through all the risks and how you could avoid them. And then your approvals. You're going to want to enter in everyone's names here because they're pulled into your continuing business strategy. So we are going to go through and work on our CBS now. So our continuing business strategy, that's at the the bottom tab, and you just left click CBS. That stands for your continuing business strategy. So we're going to go through and you can see the property information most of it's been pulled through already. So Voyageur has been pulled through, that's the council. If you wanted to change it, you could retype it, but there's no need. The day-to-day business of the property, it's a drop-down menu. So you just left-click it and then left-click the arrow. You can choose its council, group, or area. Your property manager has been pulled through. You're going to want to select what the ownership status of it is. So if it's other, you're going to want to specify. So we have leased, owned, usage agreement, park permit, or other. So other could be it's held in trust. And then if it's leased, you want to know the annual payment and the lease expiry date. If the lease is going to expire and you notice that, please let the operations manager know about 6 months in advance, just to remind them. So for the estimated size, you're going to want acres or square meters. It really depends on the property. If it's just property or there's a lot of cabins, you're just going to want to do acres. So if it's a camp, if it's a large property with a service center on it, you're probably going to want to do both acres and square meters. If it's just a hall, then you just have to indicate the square meters. So if there's not a lot of land. For your primary uses, I'm just going to scroll down here so you can see. For your primary uses, just double click on the square beside the program level and type an X in whatever applies. So for us, we do all the above. So I'm just going to put an X beside them because we have some meetings that are held here. So the functions performed at the property to support the delivery of Scouts Canada programs, so you're going to type that in here. So you double left click to start typing. And you just want to include anything. So if there's training down here, if they're program meetings, if it's just camping, if it's a wilderness one and there's not much done, just include that. As you can see here, I'm just typing in, it's a service center and it's used to hold the national office for scouts as well as a scout shop. Again, if I wanted to go down, you just scroll on the left hand side. So capacity and usage, this is going to be really essential to see how, like, the percentage that it's used and the potential that it could bring in. So for sleeping lodges and cabins, you're going to take your building capacity. If you're not sure your building capacity, let me know. Usually if you type in your public health website, you can find that. If you left click this bubble beside the option after you've selected it, you're going to see how to calculate these options. So you can just scroll through them. So you just left click and that option comes up. So if I know that I have 3 cabins that sleep 20 people, I'm going to put 60 here. But for us, we have 0, same with campsites. So it's really the capacity times the amount of that item. So for meeting rooms, we have a lot here. So I'm going to type in 400 because our meeting room is the total capacity plus the amount there are. The total capacity can hold 400, and our office spaces, we could probably hold 50. So we don't have any nights or non-scouting. Our day use scouting, so it's 1 member for a day. So if you have a large number coming in, then, so if I have 10 days, 10 people, and then other, be our scout shop usage. So you can see the days available are pulled through. I'm going to close the comment section. You just left click the X there at the top. And safety stuff. If you have any stuff left from your scorecard, please indicate this. We need to know. And safety concerns, it's either yes or no. So right now I'm just, for the safety scorecard, I'm going to put no because everything's completed. Now these safety concerns to be like asbestos, mold, something that can't be changed but it's not going to shut the building down entirely. And then if it's a yes, describe it and put the cost to remediate it. So just type that in here and here. So for the financial health and sustainability, the number, the operating result, is going to be pulled in from your finances. So you'll already know that. So we'll know if it's a surplus or a deficit. And you're going to check if it's yes or no or unsure for these items. Same thing, it's a drop-down menu, so same thing as above. You're just going to left click and select the one you want. And then you get into your revenue, what it's derived from. So you're just going to put an X in these boxes here. And to give you some examples, so for me, we have our scout shops that come in and they're not necessarily buying, our scout shop customers aren't necessarily buying scouting materials, they're just buying camping supplies, so we'll put that in. For reserve funds, this could be anything from a foundation, if you have a savings account, if you have a trust account that you can borrow money from. If your business plan's not approved yet, you gotta select no. If it's with the council right now waiting approval, you can select other. For the capital improvements made in the last 3 years, you need to enter this in. The cost to maintain is pulled from your budget. So the estimated market value, if you own it, you'll have to enter that in. You should have received an MPAC statement. If not, contact the operations manager and we will try to figure out the best way to get this number. And if it's leased, you're going to want to put the value of improvements made. For myself, it's not leased, so what I'm going to do right now is enter in non-applicable, so NA. If it was reversed, so I leased it and unowned it, I would reverse them. So your SWOT analysis is a very handy tool. It kind of evaluates your past, present, and your future potential. Goes through your strengths, your weaknesses internally, and your opportunities and threats externally. So about 2 to 5 for each. So for my strengths, I'd put it's a large building, and it holds like different council offices. So you can see here, I'll just put 2 to 5. You can put more, of course. And then I'd go through and do my weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So opportunities could be growing the numbers. Threats would be if it's leased and the potential of the lease not being renewed could be a threat. If numbers dwindled. Again, if you need to press enter, hold the ALT and press enter. For the recommendation, we automatically have set it to the properties underutilized and will cease operations. So you can just select it and press delete on your keyboard and select the one you want by putting an X in that middle column. And that is all you need to do for your continuing business strategy. This does need to be signed. So next time we'll work on the scorecard. I'm not going to go over that now. You can just scroll to the top before we save this. So if you go to the left-hand corner at the top and press File and left-click Save As, left-click the icon for Save As, save a copy online. You can go through and either delete this title or change it, and then check Replace Existing File. So I'm going to delete this so it goes back to my original document, then I don't have to. Select Replace Existing File, and then left-click Save. You can see it just kind of reloads here, and it has saved. So it may not show up on your OneDrive right away. Give it a few minutes. Don't panic if it's not there. It has saved. Sometimes it does take a minute to reload on your OneDrive folder. So if I wanted to print, same thing. File, Print, left-click the print icon, and select entire sheet, and left-click Print. So once you've done this, go ahead and print it and sign it and then scan it into your operations manager and they will go ahead and start the process. So left click print, you can see what it's going to look like. Then left click print again. It should close. In this case I don't have a printer, so I'm just going to close the box. So if we close this, we can just go to the top and press the X. So if we were to go back to our OneDrive, the 9 icons, left click and select OneDrive by left clicking. And then again you need to go to Shared with Me and find that folder that has been shared with you. Left click, you can see it's underlined. And then scroll down, you can see it was updated 4 minutes ago. Of course that's not the right one, so just give it a minute and it'll reload and it'll be in there next time you need it.